She worked with Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte at Harlem's American Negro Theater in the 40s. She was the first African-American actress to play the big Shakespeare roles with white actors in the 60s. She even helped integrate the soap opera industry with a boycott that urged blacks not to watch Where We Can't Work. Welcome to Women in Theater. I'm Linda Weiner, theater critic and arts columnist of Newsday. And our guest today is Ruby Dee, who, alone and with her husband Ossie Davis, has made history, lived history, and not incidentally, created unforgettable theater. Is it possibly true that he made you audition for Purlie Victorious?
Yes, it's very possible. Yes, I couldn't get over it. When Phil Rose decided that he was going to produce Purlie on Broadway, with Howard Da Silva was going to direct it, it was a fabulous time for us. I mean, to think of it, so I thought, I really did think I would automatically get the part.
Now, you were married.
Yeah.
It was 1961, and he wrote the play.
And he wrote the play.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's alive today.
You
didn't
kill him?
or anything.
There's still time.
Yes, but it shocked me to attention, the idea that Ossie would have me audition for Ludi Bell. I couldn't get over it. Ludi Bell, Gussie Mae Jenkins. I don't know why. But yes, I do too. I'd been thought of as a dramatic actor, and drama and tragedies and things like that I'd done in school. I'd read them read them in different places and that kind of thing. But nobody really thought of me as being a humorist. That's what Ossie calls me. He says, "No, you're not a comedian. You're a humorist." And so it was Ludi Bell who did that for me. So I'm grateful to have been in it any kind of way.
Now, is it true that when you were growing up in Harlem and you were in a play and the teacher said that you couldn't have a part in the play because they didn't have any characters who were maids then?
Oh, yes. This was in high school.
That was high school. So that was at Hunter.
Hunter High School.
Hunter High School. And it seemed quite normal, right? Were you offended or not offended?
Yes, but you know, there's something about racism, because she wasn't a racist. She was a beautiful teacher. She tall, gorgeous, blonde, big boned lady, and I considered her a friend, and she was. But I told her that I wanted to be to be part of the drama department. I mean, in terms of being part of the students, being one of the students who participates in the plays that are put on. And she told me, well, Ruby, she said quite earnestly, there aren't any maids' parts. And I didn't have the sensitivity. I didn't know enough to say to her, but I didn't ask you about a maid's part, or I wanted to do any. I didn't have the whatever it takes to make an argument and say, well, just let me play any part that you think that I could possibly do, imagining that she might look like me.
But it was so not done.
It was so not done.
But it obviously
right.
left an impact, because you remember it to this day.
Yes, I remember it, and I remember how dreadful it was. Not the incident itself, but the very fact that I accepted the denial. It was as if that was through mother's milk, which I really never had mother's milk like that. But you accept it.
That's just the way it is.
It's just the way it is. Nobody really tells you. You sense it. You drink it from the atmosphere and in the water and in the people you meet. And I did go to a mostly all-white school, so I was America, Black America.
But there you were. You grew up in Harlem, so at 137th and 7th.
That's right.
Yeah, and is that when you decided to go to the American Negro Theater that you thought, well, I better go to a theater where black people are?
No, well, I'll tell you the truth. I forgot about it after that incident, because I forgot about it after that incident. I got a job I think there was having some. I wish I had a very sharp, clear memory, but there was something with the alphabet politics, with the National Youth Administration, and I began to study radio. With the American Theater Wing had a program. I distinctly remember that because with Arthur Hanna was the director. But that wasn't the question you asked me.
Well, it's just what I had asked. When you were doing these radio plays, then, were you also then cast according to race, or was that, then it becomes irrelevant?
No, it became irrelevant because I had an experience with Arthur Hanna, the director, in which I decided for my audition that I would only do things that I could just sound, I could sound real colored in. And I could get a role where I wouldn't sound like I was sounding like, I just would sound like a colored girl, you know. So whatever it was I felt I had to do, it seeped into my consciousness and from the things I'd heard. And so I remember Arthur Hanna said to me, and I never shall forget it, Ruby, are those the kinds of roles you want to do? Something to that effect. And I said, well, yes, and other kinds too, I guess. And he says, and he told me, he says, don't ever do the least of what it is you can imagine yourself. I never will forget that.
Well,
do the best. But I wasn't doing the least, but he saw what I was doing.
How much more you could do.
Yes, he saw that I was trying to be a colored girl so I could get a job.
Well, I know that most of people of my generation think that this colorblind casting thing really happened with Joseph Papp and the Public Theater. But a decade earlier, at least, than that, you were at the Stratford Festival in Stratford, Connecticut.
Yes.
Playing Ophelia.
Yes, and...
Cordelia, I'm sorry. Cordelia, and you were Kate. Did you Kate?
And Kate in Taming of the Shrew. Yes, and that was, I'm trying to think of her name, who insisted that I go out and audition for Kate. And, I regret so much I can't think of her name at this moment. But I wasn't. I can't believe that I'm the first. I'm maybe just the first one that was recorded.
Possibly
because
recorded.
As I read books about black actors before I came along, Laura Bowman and Hilda Offley and Abby Mitchell, and people like that. And I happened to work with Abby Mitchell, and these extraordinarily talented women. I mean, I'd never seen talent like this from any race before. I was thrilled by it, and all of that had happened long before I came along. So,
but were those specifically all black casts, though?
Yes, they were all black casts.
Yes, I think that my point is being that now that you had colorblind experiences.
Yes.
Where where everyone now thinks it's a fairly new thing, but here you were
it
doing
happened
it
before. Yes, and also in film, many films were made where black actors did classical roles, and Ira Aldrich being namely one of them, and I think of Rose McClendon as maybe another, and I have a book of such.
Oh, that's great.
Such characters, such actors.
Now, you met your husband, Ossie Davis, when both of you were in a production called Jib on Broadway in 1945. But first you were an understudy, so he didn't pay any attention to you.
Yes.
How'd you get his attention?
Oh, yes. And I was understudy.
Yes.
Well, he paid attention to me as an understudy. But, I mean, he was a very shy, I liked his understudy. His name was Bill Marshall. He recently passed on. And we were friends, and we used to sit together in the audience, and we would talk about Ossie, We kind of make fun of him because he was gangly and tall, and he had an Adam's apple that moved up and down, when he spoke.
Like a country boy.
Yes, and he looked like a country bumpkin. We said, well, no wonder he got the lead. He looks like the stereotype of what white folks like to see, but wasn't quite fair, because he was he was a genius. As a matter of fact, he told me so.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
because some people he had been rated a genius by some testing group that happened to come through.
Card-carrying genius.
Yes, and I can believe it. And he was a poet, and he was an extraordinary actor. So
And still is.
Yeah, and he still
Yes,
is. Yes. But he said I say was because he's always wanted to be a writer, not an actor. He's always wanted to be known as a writer, but he's done far more acting than he has writing, and we try to remedy that through the years.
Well, both of you have been writing, and then you wrote an autobiography together, which I think
Yes.
is such a fabulous idea. How did you manage to do an autobiography?
Oh my
together?
goodness, it was with a lot of effort.
And
because-
not get divorced by chapter 4, right?
That's exactly right. It was our daughter, Nora, because Ossie did not want to write the book. He says, I'm tired of talking about myself. I don't want to write another book. I said, don't say another book. There aren't that many. Not many of us take the time to write. And when we had a television show and a radio show, we wanted more material about black people, just ordinary black people. And very few of us wrote biographies. And so he refused over and over. We had several offers. My daughter said, Mom, you got to get him to write the book. So finally, I got an offer. They said, well, Ruby, would you write it by yourself? And I said, yes, I would write it. But then after I thought, I said, that won't be possible. So one day, I invited Ossie out to the garage, and I sat him down.
Out to the garage. This was
out to the garage. Mm-hmm. And I said, because I didn't want anybody in the house to hear what I was going to tell him, why we should do the book and so forth. And after I finished my spiel, he says, well, if they don't do this book, you've got somebody who wants to do the book just with you, I suggest you go ahead and do it. So I reached behind me, I got a little stick about that big, and I hit him over his head. No, I didn't.
I didn't think so.
And when it came out, boy, you're going to write this book.
When it
No,
came out in
not really.
2000, you had a benefit for,
Yes.
and you used it to raise money for black theaters.
Yes, I did. Well, not black theater, for 12 New York theaters, because that's all
there's
that
Puerto
we
Rican,
thought
yeah.
we had Puerto Rican and white and black and another Hispanic group.
You raised hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, we raised a lot for us. We raised $260,000. It didn't all come at once, but we divided every penny of it with our 12 theaters, because this is what one of the reasons he said he just didn't want to have a party to celebrate. So my daughter and I, we came up with the idea of doing a benefit, because these theaters are always needing money to continue, because they work on a very tight budget. They did then, they still do. And he agreed with it. He agreed to do that. And I was so pleased. And it made the whole 50 years, it added another dimension to it. It gave it put a little notch on my gun or something.
Now, obviously, the two of you have had lots of notches on your guns. I mean, I had statistics like 54 plays and 51 movies and 64 made-for-television movies. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It goes on and on like that. But what really strikes me is while you were doing this, the two of you have been so active in civil rights, in Vietnam protests, in every progressive movement of the last decades,
Yes.
including the two of you were the MCs for the March on Washington in '63.
Ossie was. I went along.
You went along.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
I was part of it.
Yes.
We shared. We did a lot of things together.
Yes.
But I wasn't. Ossie is a tremendously well-read person, and he knows. He's studied the characters, and he's helped make me see a lot of things that I had not seen before growing up in Harlem. We both came from struggle, from different parts. He from the South, and me from the North, and so that indeed is a very important part of our lives.
Yeah. He gave the eulogy at Malcolm X's funeral. That
Yes, he
knocked me
certainly
out.
did. Yes.
Yeah.
He was going to do it the next morning. I said, no, 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 we have to do this tonight. We have to do this tonight, because I knew that the morning would be too rushed. And so he stayed up half the night getting that eulogy together, and being called by my brother and to warn us we shouldn't do it because there were threats and so forth. But nonetheless, that was one of the highlights of our lives, his eulogy, that eulogy.
Now, we can't go any further without saying the name of one play, which is Raisin in the Sun.
Yes.
Did you, when you began to work on it, did you have any idea how important that play would be?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, my first real connection was one of disappointment, because Lloyd Richards had sent the play.
The director, Lloyd Richards.
Director. He was going to direct it, and we were meeting at Phil Rose's house later on that day, and there was a deadline, and I was at the deadline reading the script, and he called me, and I didn't get it. I stayed in bed, and then he called me, I think it was around noon, to get my reaction and so forth, and I said, I was thrilled, you know, I was so excited. I said, I wanted to do a play like, do a part like Beneatha, you know, all my life. You know, it's different. It's different and profound and delicious. So he said, Ruby, that's not the part I asked you to read. I said, well, I didn't see any notes. He says, no, Ruth is the character. I said, and I felt something in me just drop. Wow. Here I was going to do Ruth, and I think I'd been named Ruth. I was named Ruth a lot. I don't know whether. In different things I'd done. And I felt this, behind the ironing board of life again, married to this hard to be married to man, you know. And he said, Ruby, I need you to do it. I need you to do this part. Well, that's all he needed to say. He says, I need you to do it. And indeed, Ruth is a complex and well-dimensioned character, seldom delved into in the way that Lorraine did. And
Lorraine Hansberry.
Lorraine Hansberry, yes. Yes, so I was so glad I did that. And he said, you still want to do it, don't you? And I said, oh, yes. I wouldn't have thought, I just wanted to be in it. I didn't care what.
There is a wonderful quote from you, fairly recent quote, that said, I've played good girls and wives and mothers, and truthfully, the good girls were the stretch.
Yes.
And what did we mean by that?
The good girls were the stretch. In this respect, I can't say that I was, I was never on drugs or in the street or anything like that. But since I can remember, I've been a street fighter, you know what I mean? And I don't call myself mean, because I don't think I'm a mean person, but I am like, I fight and kick and hit people and scream and yell, and you know, no matter, it's wonder somebody hasn't killed me. It's like, I look back on it, I was like a flea to an elephant. I only waited, dripping wet when I was coming along. So I don't know why I had this battle streak in me.
Always a fighter.
Yes, yeah. And maybe I think it's from hearing, since I can remember, hearing the stories about racism and remembering things in the night at the house and seeing people's furniture put out in the street and hearing and the language and my first hearing of dialect and Amos and Andy and all those things. Although I can look back and see a lot of, and hearing my mother, who'd been a school teacher from the South, and about the lynchings and watching head whippings as I looked up. We could play on the fire escape. We were on the first tier. So something about me. And two of the pictures I remember of myself were in absolutely, were like prize fighters in the ring, with my hat. As I think back, could that person have been me? So what does that answer?
Oh, the good
So
girls.
that's the good girl.
The good girls.
And also, I didn't like I had this beautiful sister, and I would defend her. You know, I was a tomboy. I won't say tomboy, but I would beat up people, and crowds would gather around me while I beat up people. Oh, on 7th Avenue. But I look back at that streak, and I've had to work on it in a lot of ways in myself.
Well, it must have been very useful for you, no?
Well, I say this: we are who we are. We come a certain way, and it has affected me in terms of seeing injustice. It's like something leaps up in me. It's like this thing, like that thing in the car, you know, that ad that comes out of the car and they're poking this monster back in the trunk. That's what I have felt like in my life.
When you look back, you think about the things you're the most proud of. What are the first two things that come to your mind?
From a personal perspective.
Personal and professional, same thing, right?
Well, not really. What am I most proud of? One thing I love doing, some of the parts that people have chosen, asked me to do, directors from the American Negro Theater to Joe Papp to Stephen King to people.
How about Spike Lee?
And Spike Lee.
How about Spike Lee? How many of Spike Lee's movies have you been in?
Well, I've only done two movies for him, but I've been in a documentary that he made about the 3 girls in Alabama who were murdered that Christmas during the civil rights period, but working with Spike Lee, I've been proudest of that kind of confidence people have shown in what I could do. That's in terms of the things that I can do. But proud when I see, and proud to see that in other people. I must say, when I meet, I feel a kindred spirit. I love it in writers. I fall in love with writers like John O'Killens, and even today Bridget Wimberly and Alice Childress and so many writers that I've known, and that gives me a sense of, and of course Zora. Yes, Zora gives me
yes.
Zora. I love her because I'm proud of her, because she's helped give me part of myself.
You have a one-woman show.
Yes.
That you call My One Good Nerve.
Yes, my one good nerve.
Can you explain what that means?
My one good nerve, yes, is because I'm feeling grateful for survival. I'm grateful that nobody's killed me and that I haven't killed anybody.
There's still time.
There's still time.
Yeah.
Well, I think of it, I think I'm not doing my job right now. I should be out there with other seniors in the streets, marching, taking back the country, getting back the documents, rescuing, finding our way as black people in America. We must not start walking backwards. What is it? Fighting for the country, fighting for human. It sounds crazy, but I think of Du Bois when he says, every day has to be that fight for life, lit by some large vision of goodness and beauty and truth. And I'd like to be a much more viable part of that fight.
Do you feel optimistic about blacks in America today, or even black theater in America today? More optimistic or less than you were?
Oh yes, I feel optimistic because I feel, as Lorraine Hansberry said, how dare you despairing ones think that only you know the truth. And when I think of us as human beings, what an astonishing species we are, what an astonishing set of circumstances, what an astonishing potential, you know, this country is, to have something to live for is a glorious thing. So, you know, that's part of why I know it's worth it, and that's why I know that the theater must understand what an terribly important, I don't want to say the word terribly, marvelously important agenda we must get together and help to make forward for humankind.
It must be a little bit frustrating that the major plays, that if August Wilson didn't put a play on Broadway every 3 years, sometimes we wouldn't see any black people on Broadway.
Yes.
If they weren't singing and dancing.
Yes, but there have been some good people like good plays, and I admire August Wilson and his work. He moves in a certain way, but there's ever so much more about us that has to be shared, that doesn't get the chance. I think of Spike saying for a long time, we wanted to know why why he was doing the kinds of films he was doing. I asked him once about some film I saw, and it made me feel bad. I mean, the guns and the hood, and he says, "Well, we can only get money to do hood films, the hood films. The film that he produced on his own, She's Gotta Have It, it didn't have anything to do with, it had something to do with values and searching and that kind of thing. It's the spiritual search, you know. So that's why I feel we just can't go where the dollars lead us.
Absolutely.
We have to go where our spirits lead us. We have to go. The soul is striving for expression. It's like the genie, and it's saying, like my son said to me years ago, "Let me out, let me out, let me out." And you know, don't crowd me into this little space. Don't narrow me down, you know, to guns and TNA and what makes money and you know, and make our chief proclamation, as in the words of Zora Neale Hurston, "Beat you making money. I'll beat you making money."
Honestly. Ruby Dee, it's been such an honor to have you here. Thank you so very much.
Oh,
and
my
thank you
goodness.
for being here. On behalf of the League of Professional Theater Women, I'm Linda Weiner, and this has been Women in Theater.